All right, well, let's get started. Yeah? Everybody feel good? Ready to rock? Learn some things about TrendSpider? What's up, Mark? Good morning. Good to have you. Glad you could make it. All right, Emmanuel, let's go. All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you guys all for being here. What's up, Daniel Ushman? Good to see you, sir. Thank you, everybody, for being here, joining us for this very special Back to School TrendSpider webinar. Now, when I think about going back to school, I think about all the things that I needed to be prepared for the semester to come, right? Talking about the essentials, pencils and pens, paper, binders, books, everything that you go into class with on day one. TrendSpider is a wildly robust platform with tons of tools to assist and train and educate you in your analysis. But to get the most out of it, it really pays to develop a good understanding of the essential functionality in workflows so that you can navigate the entire tool efficiently and effectively. So today, I want to give you guys a quote unquote first day of school lesson within TrendSpider. We're going to go over a set of tools that you can use to help build the foundation of your analysis on the platform. That way, when you're in the heat of the moment, that it's time to take a trade, you've done all of your legwork to understand the platform, and you could just navigate it easily so that you can execute your trades with precision. So the first thing that I want to spend some time digging into today is a tool that we call Auto Trends. Now, Auto Trends is one of several auto analysis features that can be found on the platform. When I say auto analysis, what I mean is the platform can automatically analyze the chart and do several levels of analysis on it automatically for you. It can automatically identify fib sequences, trend lines, as you just saw, candlestick patterns, chart patterns. You got horizontal levels of potential supply and demand. These tools are really built to help, save you a little bit of time and take some of the guesswork out of your analysis. If you're unsure about where to draw a trend line or what constitutes a proper trend line, mathematically speaking, auto trends are a solution that you can employ kind of any time that you need them on any asset that you're interested in. By removing some of the guesswork, you're removing some of your personal bias too. Obviously, you need bias to have the conviction to take a trade, but bias can also make us see things that aren't there. So it's good practice to incorporate these auto analysis tools into your analysis because of their unbiased nature. Especially if you're new to TA. I use them all the time just to confirm what I'm seeing myself. So if you're new, they can really be helpful for you. Before we get into kind of the functionality around the the trend lines themselves, I kind of want to talk through a bit about what they're built off of. The first piece to understand about all auto analysis tools is that they are dictated by something that we call the truth and analysis timestamp. That's visualized here in the center of my chart. This is a vertical dashed line, and it represents the last time that the auto analysis tools were updated. In higher time frames, like I'm on the daily right now, the platform will not automatically update the truth line. And that's because we don't really want to mess with your analysis. You may be tracking a particular auto trend line and it's a key piece of your analysis. We don't want to update that until you're prepared to move on, until it's not important to you anymore. So on the higher time frames, like I say, this will stay locked until you update it again. You can see the last time I updated the cues here was back in March of 20, or rather March 22nd of this year. It's been a little while since I've updated this. On the lower time frames, if you go down to lower time frames, you will see that truth line updated to the current candle. It's in what we call live mode. So just know that you will need to update this. And to do that, you can do it either with the refresh icon up here in the left-hand corner, or you can hover over this box here and click on refresh and lock. And when I click this, you'll see it jumps to the current candle. It refreshes all of the lines. It gives me a whole new set of trend lines that are relevant up to the current candle. Now, before I get into the functionality of the trend lines, I want you guys to understand where these trend lines are coming from. How is the platform identifying these trend lines to draw in the first place? Well, if we click on the three dots here and we go down to quality and we change this to all unfiltered, we get a view that looks like this. If you follow us on Twitter, you've probably seen us post this from time to time. This is what the platform is identifying on the back end, right? It's identifying literally every single trend line that's occurring on the chart. And, as you can see, there's a lot going on here, right? There are hundreds, if not thousands of lines. And while it is pretty interesting to look at, it doesn't really do us any good to our analysis, right? We can't glean any real insights from this view. I only want to show you this so that you know that the platform can see this, right? Everything that the platform is going to show us from this point forward is based off of what it knows exists in the background. And it knows a lot about what's going on in the background. Now, we can go into those quality settings and we can adjust them. We can change it to more lines. Obviously, we're going to get a slightly pared down view here, but still, there's a lot going on. Or we can have it in most relevant. And in the most relevant view, this is going to be the setting. This is the default setting. This is where we would recommend essentially you spending most of your time. But feel free to play around with any setting in here. At the top, you've got this setting called analysis type. And within analysis type, you have three different settings there. You've got original, enhanced, and standard. Now, in the original setting, the distance between points that create a trend line is the greatest. And so because of that, the setting is going to showcase generally longer term lines or those that start further back in the chart. The standard setting is going to utilize a shorter distance in between points. So oftentimes you're going to see kind of more shorter time frame lines. You will sometimes get longer time frame lines too. And then finally, enhanced. And enhanced is going to give you a good mix of both longer term and shorter term lines. Finally, you can choose to either draw lines from highs and lows or opens and closes. You'll notice that when I change this, it will slightly impact the lines that are being drawn. Sometimes it has more impact than other times. And you can choose to either respect or ignore gaps on the chart. And again, new set of trend lines. There are no right or wrongs here. Select the settings that make the most sense for you stylistically and, play around with them. Don't be afraid to play around with them. Now let's talk about functionality, right? The trend lines are able to do a handful of different things, or you can do a handful of different things with these trend lines. The first thing you can do is you can double click on any trend line to lock it in place. So I'm just double clicking on a few things here. Notice that when I do that, the trend lines change color. If I turn off auto trends, those two trend lines that I just locked are going to stay on my chart. I can also hold shift and click on any trend line to remove it. Maybe there are a few here that are definitely not important to my analysis right now or not relevant to my analysis. I want to remove them. I can hold shift and click on them and remove them. If you accidentally remove too many, come up to your indicators list. You'll see a thing that says you have removed some trends. Would you like to restore them? You can click on restore and it'll bring them all back for you. And then finally, you can right click on any trend line and create an alert on it. Will this route in the queues continue down to this trend line here? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be monitoring the queues when and if that happens, but the platform can do it for me. So maybe I want to use a little bounce touch alert here and just let the platform monitor that line. I'll do like a 20-day expiration on it. And so now I've just created an alert on this line. I can turn my auto trends off. I can go to another asset. I can whatever, continue on with my day. The platform's watching that trend line, letting me know when and if price gets there, and then I'll be mindful of it. So that gives you a good understanding of everything that you can do with auto trends. They're, kind of basic, but they're very intuitive, right? And you can use them every day in your overall analysis, whether that be to find the most important lines or maybe to compare what you're personally seeing to what the platform is seeing. Now, let's take that trendline analysis to the next level. Obviously, trendline analysis is widely used by traders and investors of all kinds. But perhaps what's maybe more popular than even using trend lines is chart pattern analysis, right? After all, chart patterns are visualized, they're made up of trend lines for the most part. So just as the platform can automatically identify the most mathematically sound trend lines for you, TrendSpider can also identify many of the most common chart patterns that you might look for every day. I'm talking about things like falling wedges and channels and triangles, double tops and double bottoms, inverted head and shoulders, broadening patterns. TrendSpider can basically see it all. And this functionality operates in some ways that are similar to auto trends, as well as some more functional ways that will allow you to really maximize their use. So first, to define the chart patterns that you'd like the platform to identify, I'm going to go to a smaller time frame here. You want to go up to your chart patterns button, click on the three dots, and then you want to add some patterns to the chart. Whatever you're interested in finding. I'm just going to add some random things here. And as I scroll through my list, the platform's going to automatically analyze the chart. If any of those patterns exist on the chart, then it's going to find them. If I switch time frames, we'll go up to a bigger time frame. It's going to utilize the new candles that are on the chart and show me the patterns that exist on that chart. And now this is really helpful, if you're looking at a particular name at a particular time frame. But what if you're looking for a setup? What if you're looking for every name that has a particular pattern, maybe a falling wedge or something like that? Visualizing the chart patterns is the first piece, but visualizing is only part of the process. If you're like me, you're looking at many stocks throughout the day, trying to identify some of these key patterns. So what you really need is that discovery solution, right? And TrendSpider provides it for you. So let me show you how that works, because it's the big unlock with chart patterns is that you can scan for them. Any platform any pattern that the platform can identify, it can also scan for. So let me show you how that works. In the market scanner, I'm going to come over here to my shared scanners list, and I'm just going to type in a pattern. Like I said, I'm going to do falling wedge here. And when I type in falling wedge, I get a list of options. Some of these options are things that I've created myself. But if I scroll down to the bottom of the list, there are a handful of things here that are marked or hashtagged as samples. So anything that's hashtagged as sample is going to be available in your account as well. If you're a TrendSpider trader, you have access to all of these things. So I said, I'm looking for falling wedge breakouts. I'm going to select the falling wedge breakout option. And I can go ahead and run this scan. While it's running, let's talk through the two conditions that define this scan, right? It's very simple, right? Price closing above the bottom of the wedge, price closing above the top of the wedge. I'm going to come over here to my chart patterns button. I'm going to remove everything that I added before just so that we can just be focused on the falling wedges. And as I run through these charts, we're going to see a bunch of falling wedges, right? So I've taken this big idea of hunting for falling wedge breakouts, and I've instantly identified all of them in, whatever key list that I'm looking for them in. Let's do a bigger list here just so we can kind of find some more options for us. The next step of this, right, is not all of these falling wedge breakouts are created equal. If you think about it, some of these names might have earnings soon, and maybe you want to avoid names that have earnings soon. Some of these names may be in strong downtrends, while others may be in strong uptrends. Some may be above or below key moving averages. Some might not even be fundamentally sound enough for you to be interested in investing in them at all. So as specific as you want to be with these sorts of conditions, you can be. So let's get more specific. Whenever you utilize a shared scanner, like we've done here, you will see a prompt at the top that says, this scanner does not belong to you. You can play with it, but you need to make your own copy to be able to save changes. So that's the first step. We need to make our own copy. So I'm going to do that, make our own copy. Now let's talk about those specifics, right? We wanted to get more specific. The first thing we said, maybe we want to only look for names that are in strong uptrends. Well, how do we define strong uptrends? It could be kind of relative, so let's use some very blanket ideas. I'm going to use the GPT conditions here, and I'm going to say, let's say SMA 50 greater than, SMA 50 greater than SMA 200. We'll let it build that condition for us real quick. So the 50 is above the 200. Let's also say that the close is greater than SMA 50, so that price is above the 50 as well. And I don't know, we said fundamentals. Maybe we want to hunt for a specific fundamental criteria. Let's say, I don't know, earnings per share, year over year earnings per share growth. We can add that. We'll go to add parameter, say condition. We'll select fundamentals. I'm going to search earnings here. I'm going to grab that earnings per share. I'm going to say greater than fundamentals, earnings per share. We want year over year growth. So let's click right here and make this 4 quarters ago. So now this is defining that the earnings per share this quarter are greater than the earnings per share 1 year ago, 4 quarters ago. So now we've got these 5 conditions. We've taken that very basic scan, just the falling wedge breakout, and we've made it a little bit more specific. And we've defined all of these conditions as all the following. So all of these things have to be true in order for a name to appear in this scan. Now, before I run it, we had said maybe we want to avoid earnings. We want to avoid names with earnings. How can we do that? We can do it. We can add a parameter. I'm going to utilize a condition group in this case, and I'm going to go down to earnings dates. I'm going to define them as within the next 10 days. And then right here where it says all of the following, I'm going to change this to none of the following. So now all of these things need to be true. We got to have a falling wedge breakout, the 50 SMAs above the 200, prices above the 50. We've got year over year earnings per share growth, and earnings are not within the next 10 days, right? So now we've just taken this very simple thing, made it complex, made it more specific to us. This is actually one of the scans that Ryan has. Here you go. Ryan just hooked you up with it. So if you want to play around with this idea on your own, please feel free to upload that into your account at your leisure. So we took that big list. I mean, there were like 30, 40, 50 names that had these falling wedge breakouts. And now we've just funneled it down, whittled it down to just 4 names that are meeting this criteria. 4 names that are above their 50 and 200. The 50s above the 200. They got year over year earnings per share growth. And most importantly, they don't have earnings in the next 10 days. So this is kind of the power of how you can take these custom, or rather these shared scripts, and turn them into your own thing. And that leads me to the next kind of big picture item that you should really be aware of on TrendSpider, because you're going to be using these a lot too. What we just utilized and adapted within the market scanner is something that we call a visual script. Each one of these items is a condition, and these conditions together form what we call a visual script. Now, you hear a lot about how TrendSpider is a no-code platform. You saw how everything that I defined within this script, from technicals to fundamentals to earnings to chart patterns, it's all done with drop-down menus or plain language using that GPT condition. That's what we mean by no code. Visual scripts are very easy to create in that way. If you have the idea, the drop-down menus essentially walk you through that idea. But we also understand that writing these scripts on your own can take a little bit of getting used to. So, to kind of combat that and to help you on your path, we've created a ton of pre-made visual scripts that you can utilize. I'm going to go ahead and turn off market scanner here. I'm going to turn off the chart patterns. And so I want to bring you now to the visual scripts button. When you click on this, it opens up the script manager. This looks very similar to that shared scanner menu that we just saw in the market scanner. This is a list of all kinds of different setups, from technical indicators to price action to candlestick patterns. All of the most kind of basic stuff that you can think of is probably, there's something pre-scripted for you that you can utilize. Let me give you some examples. If you type in MACD here into the search bar and you scroll down to the bottom of the list, you're going to see a ton of samples. Again, we're utilizing those samples. These are all pre-made things that you can access. So pre-built MACD cross up, cross down, curling up, curling down, MACD negative, MACD positive. This is going to be true across all of the major indicators that you can think of. Type in SMA, you're going to see the same sort of thing. Different length SMAs increasing and decreasing, crossing over, crossing up, crossing down. Price below them, price above them, price bouncing off of them, breaking through them. One more example, Bollinger Bands. Same idea, price bouncing off a lower Bollinger Band, bouncing off the upper Bollinger Band, price within range of one of the Bollinger Bands, right? All of these things are pre-scripted for you. So I'm going to kind of walk you through some examples. And we'll use MACD kind of going forward just as kind of a basic example. Just know you can use anything in here. So I'm going to use the basic MACD cross up. So when I click on that, it opens up the script for me. But this list here, this isn't just a list. This isn't just telling me like how to build this script. I mean, it's built it for me. So this is not just a list. It is a hub from which you can direct the conditions to different tools across the platform. Let me show you what I mean. Right here where it says send to, if you click on that, you're going to get some options. You can send this condition to an alert. You can send it to the strategy tester as an entry criteria. You could set it to the strategy tester as an exit criteria. You can set it to the scanners. You can find names meeting this criteria right now, or you can send it to the smart checklist. We'll talk about the smart checklist in a bit. Let's start on the alerts. So when I click the alerts option, it sends that MACD bullish cross condition straight into a multi-factor alert on whatever ticker I have up on my chart. In this case, I have EXP on my chart, so it sent it to EXP. All I have to do from here, I can define my time frames if I want to change the time frames. I can add parameters just like I did in the scanner. I can choose my expiry. This is how long I want the alert to live in my system, up to about 100 days, depending on what tier of the platform you have. And then you can choose how many times you want this to trigger over your expiry time. So if I'm using a 30-minute MACD bull cross for the next 20 days, yeah, it's likely that that MACD might cross up multiple times over the next 20 days on the 30-minute time frame. I might want to be alerted every time it crosses up, not just one time. So that's what the triggers are for. So this is essentially defining that over the next 20 days, the MACD could cross up 5 unique times. I'll be alerted on each. So I create that alert, and then I can come over to my alerts widget here. I'm going to add it to a visible column. And there's the alert, this MACD bull cross on EXP. Platform's watching it for me, keeping an eye on things. Again, I can move on with my day, move on with my analysis, get back to something else. The platform's watching it, will let me know when this occurs, or rather the next time that it occurs. But what if I have a list of names and I want to add this alert to a handful of names on that list? Well, I can just select the next name that I want to add that alert to. We'll say we want to add it to Apple. I come down to the alert that I just made on EXP. I can click on this clone icon here, and notice how it just boop, it just takes that alert and copies it essentially onto Apple. It's the exact same expiry, exact same triggers, exact same time frame, exact same everything, but now it's on Apple. Create the alert, and here you go. Now it's on Apple. And I could just go down the list, whatever names I want, copy paste it. I'm going to do it on HD real quick, just making a few of these, just kind of showing you how quick that functionality is. It's very simple, very easy to use. But again, it's not the only place that you can send that visual script to. I'm going to go back to the MACD here, grab the cross up. We could send it to the strategy tester as well. Let's say you want to test a bullish MACD cross on your favorite name, going long when the MACD crosses up and closing out the trade when the MACD crosses down. Again, we can grab this MACD and we can send it to the strategy tester. Let's say we want to send it as the entry criteria. We want to go long on the bull cross. So I click that button and instantly it sends it to my entry criteria. Well, every strategy needs an exit criteria as well. We want that bullish, or rather that bearish MACD cross potentially as our exit. So let's go back to visual scripts here. I'm going to type in MACD again. We'll say bearish and grab the cross down this time. We're going to go send to, and then send it as an exit. And so now, just that quickly, I've built a strategy without having to script anything, without really having to do anything. I just know I want to test a bullish MACD cross. I want to go long on the cross up. I want to get out on the cross down. I define my time frame for this strategy. I define how far back I want to test this strategy. We'll say maybe about 3,000 candles. I think it's about like almost 2 years or so, maybe 3 years. And then we get some results. And within the strategy tester, there's a lot of data here. And I want to, I want to focus on just the key stuff because we only have a limited amount of time today. So I want to focus on the key stuff that you should be mindful of within this, all of the data that we're receiving. So the first piece that you want to keep an eye on is the performance chart value. It says 89.5%, and then it says 52% for the asset performance. So what this is saying is it's comparing the performance of our strategy versus the performance of the asset, the buy and hold performance over the same period of time. So what we find here is that this particular strategy actually beats out buy and hold on CAT by, a fair amount, about 40% over that same period of time. This chart shows us kind of two big components. You've got your equity. This is your equity curve. This is your strategy's performance over time. And then you've got the asset itself and the positions that you took on the asset. So you can kind of see like when did the strategy perform well? Those are going to be places where the chart is green. Your strategy got into a trade, it exited the trade for a profit. Anywhere that's red, the strategy got into a trade, exited the trade for a loss. But overall, this was a winning strategy relative to just the buy and hold over the same period of time. We're looking back 3 years. Over here on the right-hand side, there are a few key data points in tabular data that you should always kind of have at the forefront of your analysis. Of course, we talked about the net performance of the strategy. You want to be mindful of your win rate. In this case, 41% win rate. So your win rate's actually kind of low in this, and you're still quite outperforming the asset. You want to be mindful of your max drawdown. In this case, you've got a max drawdown of about 19.2% versus the asset's max drawdown over the same period of time, 32%. So you're avoiding like 13% of drawdown just by utilizing this strategy. That's pretty cool. You've got an average return per trade of 0.63%, and then your reward to risk ratio of 2.33. So those are kind of the key data points to be mindful of. And I can select another name. The platform is going to automatically test on that name, and we're going to get some new results. And we can kind of contrast and compare. And the platform actually does that contrasting and comparing for you in tabular data. Over here to the right, now you see these new data points. Some of them are red, some of them are green. That's a comparison value relative to the previous test. So remember the last test, the net performance of the strategy was like 90%. Well, this performance on Apple is only 15%. That's a 74% difference. Your performance has gone down by 74%. That's pretty drastic. Your max drawdown has gone up by 10% on Apple for this strategy. Your average return has gone down 0.5%. Your risk to reward ratio has gone down over 0.5%. So that quickly we can kind of gain the understanding of like, oh, well, this strategy actually works quite better on Cat than it works on Apple. Now that leads me kind of to the next piece here though. If I start running the strategy on different names, I'm going to start getting, different data sets. And now I've almost completely lost. Well, how does this strategy compare to the first one? Right? Well, TrendSpider has developed a solution for that problem too, that keeping track of how the data changes from maybe time frame to time frame or from asset to asset. We call the solution to that problem the Variance Explorer. So in order to utilize the Variance Explorer, there's one thing that we have to do, and we're going to have to save this thing as a strategy. So I'm just going to save this as MACD Bull Cross. I'm going to hashtag it as webinar, and I'm going to say save. And so because I've saved it, now I can open it up in the Variance Explorer. And the idea behind the Variance Explorer is that it allows you to test up to 30 variants at one time. You've got resolution, that's your time frames, you've got strategies, you've got backtest depth, and you've got symbols. Those are the variants that you can adjust. For this demonstration, I'm just going to use the single strategy, but let's quickly test it across maybe a multitude of names. We know that it performs well on Cat on the 30-minute time frame, and I believe it was the 2-hour. Let's see how it performs across all the different time frames. I'm going to just grab a bunch here. So this is like 10 or 11 different time frames. I can press compute, and just that quickly, I get results back to tell me everything that I need to know about how this strategy performs across all those time frames at once in a very easy to read, set of columns here, like a spreadsheet. And each column is going to contain one of those key data points that I kind of discussed earlier. You've got the performance of the strategy versus the asset. You've got the amount of positions that you took, your win rate, your max drawdown, your average return, your reward to risk ratio, and so on. And you'll notice that each column has kind of some highlighting. And within each column, there's one value that is kind of the boldest, brightest value of the bunch. That's going to kind of represent the best data point within each column, or the strongest data point within each column. So we saw that the 2-hour worked quite well relative to the asset. We also see, though, that actually the 4-hour works better relative to the asset, or the 4-hour rather has the highest return relative to the rest of the time frames. And it also beats the asset, 151% return versus 135% return if you had bought and held over the same period of time. We can see that the 10-minute took the most positions. That's kind of what you'd expect, lower time frame. You'd expect more positions on a lower time frame. Your win rate is actually the best on the daily. That's kind of interesting. Your max drawdown is the lowest on the 5-minute. That's kind of expected too. Again, your 5-minute time frame, so you're getting into and out of trades pretty quickly. Your average return, highest on the 4-hour. Your reward to risk ratio, highest on the 2-hour, right? So you can utilize all this data to kind of make a bit more of an informed decision about the strategy. If you know that you want to trade this strategy on CAT and you were thinking, well, that 2-hour return looks pretty sweet. Now you also know that the 4-hour return actually looks pretty good too. The daily honestly doesn't look that bad either. But just being able to see this very quickly is super, super helpful. And it takes all of the time out of the process of going one by one. So we know that this works on CAT on the 2-hour, on the 4-hour, on the daily. Let's see if there's anywhere else where it kind of beats 30-minute beats the asset over the same period of time. So maybe we want to focus on those two, or rather those 4 key time frames: the 30-minute, the 2-hour, the 4-hour, the daily. So I'm going to remove a bunch of time frames here. So now we're just got the 30, the 2-hour, the 4-hour, the daily. Let's add some tickers to it. Maybe you want to then test this strategy across a bunch of different tickers that you're interested in trading. I'll put in Apple here. I'll put in Nvidia. I'll put in Microsoft, just kind of for some basic examples. We'll run the compute on it again. And now we're seeing that same strategy across those 4 key time frames on all 4 of those assets. And we can, again, begin to make those same comparisons. What's working, what doesn't. Nvidia, as I guess you would expect, kind of has the best returns in this particular case. It comes nowhere close to asset performance, mind you, but it does have the highest return overall, the Nvidia daily on just a basic bullish MACD cross long. The Nvidia 4-hour works quite well. It's kind of the 3rd top performer. The Apple daily is your 2nd best performer of these strategies. So maybe now the reality is, like, I was going to trade this on CAT, but maybe I want to consider trading it on Apple daily or Nvidia daily, right? Those are the type of assessments that you can make very quickly and easily utilizing the strategy variance explorer. That's really what this tool is all about. So the last thing that I want to show you guys before we kind of start wrapping this up is something that we run into a lot, actually, when we're speaking with many newer traders to the platform, specifically in the one-on-one sessions that our customer support team offers. You guys love your indicators, and we can't blame you, right? We do too. But how many times have you gotten into a scenario where your charts happen to look like this? You got all these tools turned on, and because you have all these things turned on, price action is nearly impossible to read because of everything that you've got on your chart. The indicators are a vital tool for so many of us traders in our analysis. But if your charts look like this, all of those indicators are kind of hindering it, or can potentially be hindering your analysis. And on TrendSpider, we offer a solution to this problem that we call the Smart Checklist. So first off, in order to access it, click on the checklist button and say add it to a visible column. Now I want to talk through the mindset of why you might want to utilize a checklist. So on my chart right now, I've got trend lines turned on, and I've got a bunch of indicators turned on as well. I'm going to turn off the trend lines just so that we can just see the indicators. So we got 4 moving averages. We've got volume, we've got RSI, and we've got MACD. And let's just pretend that in order for us to be interested in taking a trade on any name at any given time, we need conditions around these 6 or 7 indicators to all be true. Maybe we need price to be above the moving averages. Maybe we need the moving averages to be in alignment. Maybe we need RSI to be above 50. Maybe we need MACD to be bullish. Maybe we need a certain volume condition or whatever. We need all of these things to be true in order to take a trade. And maybe we're monitoring, a couple of names, maybe 10, 20, 30 names. In order to know that all of these conditions are true or what conditions are true on all of the names that we're monitoring, it takes looking at the chart and seeing it. On Apple here, I can see, okay, price is above all the moving averages. I can't quite tell if they're in alignment. There's a little bit, it's a little hard to read right here. I can see RSI is 50. Cool. I don't really know where we're at on volume, and MACD is negative. Great. Some of my conditions are true, but a couple aren't. Go to Amgen here. What's true here? Looks like price is almost above all the key moving averages. They look like they're in alignment. RSI is above 50. MACD, again, kind of negative here. Let's move on. You see how I'm having to do this manually. It kind of takes time. And I'm on Amazon and I've already forgotten what the reality is about Apple, right? The checklist solves this problem. So let me show you how it works. I'm going to go over here to choose this script, and I'm going to type in webinar. And here's another item that my colleague Ryan is going to share with you. If you guys would like to utilize this on your end, play around with it, develop it, you can upload it into your account. We've got this to share for you. So within this checklist, it's a visual script, just like we created before. And we've defined everything that we need to be true in order to be interested in taking a trade on any of the names that we're watching. So we've got price above all of the moving averages, the 8, the 21 EMA, the 50, the 200 SMA. We've got the moving averages in alignment. The 8's above the 21, the 50's above the 200, the 21's above the 50. So that means they're in order from shortest to longest, top to bottom. You've got MACD is greater than the signal line. So you've got positive MACD. You've got RSIs greater than 50. You got volume above 500,000 shares traded. And then a little curveball here. Price closed within range of the 52-week high by 15%. So all of these things are defined. We said all of them are true. We choose this script and it loads into the smart checklist. Now, next to each condition, you're going to see a colored box, either red or green. If the box is colored red, that means that condition is not true right now. If it's colored green, it means that condition is true. Since we have all of them, or since we're defining that all of these things have to be true, the box right here, in order for it to be green, everything would have to be true. So this is an instantaneous visual representation of everything that's happening on our chart. In essence, what we can do is turn off our indicators completely, right? Because this is our indicator now. It's our giant indicator telling us everything that we need to know about the name that we're looking at. So instead of going through each name and going, this is true, this isn't, this isn't, this isn't, one indicator to answer that entire question. Well, on Apple, everything is true except that MACD condition. Is that enough for me to want to take a trade? Maybe, it at least whittles it down a little bit for me. I know that everything that I need is true except for one thing. Let's keep on going down the list. Amgen, everything is true except for two things. Amazon, totally different state, right? Almost everything is not true. I'm staying the heck away from Amazon. I want to see if I can find anything where all of the conditions are true. And I'm making that assessment instantaneously on the fly, just scrolling through my list. And what I'm going to find, INTC looking ugly. Let's see. There we go. Coca-Cola. Everything that I need to be true is true. And I don't have a single indicator on my chart to tell me it. The smart checklist does it for me. Now what I can do, if I know that maybe Coca-Cola is a little bit weak on the day, I can drop down to a low time frame and be looking for a bottom entry here because I know everything is true over here that I need. Maybe there's other names where everything is true today. Triple M, everything is true today. So not only does this show me the names that I should be focused on, it's also kind of directing me about sectors. Where's money going? Money's going into Coca-Cola and Triple M. I mean, Coca-Cola is a value stock. Triple M could be argued as a value stock as well. I'm not completely certain that it is, but I would kind of put it in that group. So, all right, money's going to value stocks today. That's interesting to note. So not only did this tell me, like I said, the names that I should be interested in, it also kind of is directing me inadvertently to the sectors that I could be focused in. UNH, another one, meeting all the criteria today. So That's kind of the idea behind the smart checklist. That's the use case for it. And hopefully you'll take the smart checklist that Ryan has dropped in chat and utilize it yourself. So what we've gone through a lot of functionality today, you know. What did we learn? We learned about auto trends, about how they work, about the truth line. We learned about the types of chart patterns that the platform can identify. These guys, how to scan for them. We learned how to edit those pre-built scripts by making our own copies. We learned about the vast data bank of visual scripts that are available on the platform, and more importantly, how to send those scripts to different tools on the platform to create alerts or build strategies. We learned about the key data points in the excuse me, we learned about the key data points in the strategy tester, right? How to bring those scripts into the strategy tester, test them, find the timeframes that work utilizing the strategy variance explorer. And finally, we learned how to remove visual clutter from our charts utilizing a smart checklist. This helps us to find the names that are meeting our criteria right now, lets us keep our eye on the price action, and directs us to kind of the sectors that might be working right now. We've gotten a ton done in a short time. We've learned a lot. So I want to close this thing out with a little bit of homework for you guys to do in your free time. Now, presumably, some of you are already TrendSpider traders. I know we said it in chat. There were a few of y'all who are TrendSpider traders. Hopefully, for those of you who are not yet, this webinar has shown you the value that you get with the platform, the sheer number of tools that are available, and kind of the ease with which you can use them. And you're ready to take advantage of the back to school discount that we're currently offering through the weekend. You can save up to 50% um, on your first year of TrendSpider now through the weekend. For those of you who are TrendSpider traders, or for those of you who are about to be, I want you guys to take a moment and explore a new tool that we've recently brought to the platform that we're calling relative performance. You could see this indicator down here at the bottom of my chart. If there's one thing that we are all on the hunt for, it's names that are leading their peers, right? Some of you in the audience might be familiar with Investors Business Daily's relative strength scoring system or Stock Charts Tech Rank. Relative performance is a brand new indicator that seeks to achieve the same results as both of those products. So the key use case with relative performance is to identify leading and lagging stocks with just a single numerical value instead of utilizing a bunch of indicators to tell you what's working, one number to tell you where the relative performance is, who are the leaders, who are the laggards. So this indicator oscillates between a value of 0 and 100. Of course, anything that's trading at or near 0, these are going to be the laggards amongst their group. Anything that's trading closer to 100, above 80, these are going to be, I'm sorry, anything trading below 20 down near 0, those are the laggards. Anything above 80, more near 100, these guys are going to be the leaders, right? So this tool happens to work especially well in the scanner because it just takes one condition and you can scan for stocks that are strongest performers relative to their peers or weakest or what have you. So let me show you how that works really quick. If you click on the market scanner and you go to add parameter, we go to condition. This one has its own option here. So just click on relative performance. And let's say we're looking for just true leaders, greater than a constant value of 95. Easy peasy, right? Takes no time to build this. I'm going to look through the NYSE composite. I'm going to run this scan really quick. We're going to get a list of names that are meeting this criteria right now. So once this comes through, here we go. We got a bunch of names. So this is finding the true leaders amongst the group. Ryan has just shared a couple of new scans that we've built for you. They're quite more in depth than this, but they utilize relative performance to kind of find some leadership for you. Feel free to download those to your account. I want to take this idea, though, of scanning for leaders and expand upon it. And here's your real homework. Outside of just making this scanner for yourself, this is your real homework. What is the first thing that you do every day when you look at the markets? If you're like me, you're doing things like this, right? You're running through your watch lists, you're running scans to maybe find new names, maybe see how the names on your watch list are setting up. This might be a bit of a process, though. For some of us, we take hours in the morning looking for setups. Everybody's kind of different. Well, TrendSpider has recently launched something that we call scheduled scanning. The idea behind this is, we can take the results of any scan and send them directly to your email once per day at a time that you choose. So when you're getting out of bed in the morning, you're going to make your coffee, instead of having to go turn your computer on, load up the platform, log in, do your scans, make your watch list, all you have to do with scheduled scanning is open your email and you will have a watch list of the best performing names in your email inbox every single day. So let me show you how it works. So just very simply, I'm just going to call this RP greater than 95 and say save. I'm going to click on the three dots here. I'm going to say run this scanner. Say run this scanner on a schedule. And then I just select the days that I want this scanner to run. Pick my days, pick my times, whatever time makes sense for you. Maybe you've got it dialed in. You wake up at 6 o'clock, you get up, you make your coffee. By 6:30, you're at your computer. Maybe you want these delivered to you by 6 o'clock or 6:30 or whatever it is. They get sent to you and you get an email every single day that looks like this. In this email, you have some values here. How many symbols are on the list, how many new symbols, how many old symbols, how many have left the list. And then you get a color-coded list of names that are meeting the criteria right now or are not or were yesterday, right? So the red names are going to be names that were on the list yesterday. They're off the list today. So they're gone. They're not meeting your criteria anymore. You can forget about them. The blue names are new names to the list. They're meeting it today. They weren't yesterday. And then the gray names, those are names that were on the list yesterday, and they are still on the list today. So that is my presentation for you guys. Hopefully, we learned quite a bit. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to hang out for a few minutes and answer anything that you guys got. What can you do with the email? So that's a great question. You can take this list and you can access it, right? Like every day you're going to get this list. You can embed these scanner results into like using like a Discord or your Twitter or anything that accepts a webhook. You can share this list if you want to with your friends. They can access it. That's really the idea. It's about the visual discovery, and it's about kind of taking that time out of your morning instead of looking for the scenarios that are working, looking for the names that are meeting all your criteria. Just get that thing sent to you. How can you make money with the platform? That's a very broad question. I like to think that all of the things that I just described are ways that you can make money with the platform. Any other specific questions about any functionality or anything like that? The money-making piece is kind of up to you. We offer you the tools to help you discover the names that are working, to help you discover the alpha in your strategies, to alert you when key things are happening on the chart that you're interested in. That's kind of what the platform is all about, is giving you the tools to put you in a place where you can make money. Efron, cheers, man. We're not going to do one once a week, but we're going to be doing them probably once a month. Is it possible, for example, test the platform for 7 or 2 weeks? That's actually a good question. We sometimes will test. I don't believe we have any trial periods right now, but you can just pay for a month and test it and see how you like it. If you like it for the month, you can always upgrade to a full year. Is it possible to share the links of all scripts? Yeah, they're all shared. Alan, scroll up. They're all shared. Dave, this is going to be replayed for sure. You'll be able to access it. Actually, you'll get an email from Zoom and you'll be able to access it there. I'm going to, as soon as we log out of here, I'm going to load it up into YouTube, and it'll be on demand there on YouTube as well. Alan, cheers. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Quick presentations of the advantages of raindrop charts. Great question. Let's just talk about what a raindrop is, right? A raindrop is going to be a volume-based candle. Let me go to a bigger time frame. Raindrops, volume-based candle, so you can see kind of how volume is moving around throughout the day or throughout the time period. To me, kind of like the key things that I look for blue doji raindrops. These are going to be like true volume dojis, where your VWAP, your average buyer, is the same on either side of the time frame. As you get into higher time frames, that becomes more and more difficult to do, right? Blue dojis are rarer on a daily or on a weekly than they are on a 5-minute or a 15-minute or what have you. So those blue dojis represent like true, like neither buyers nor sellers are in control, right? It's kind of a battle for who's in control. And oftentimes what will come after a blue doji is some sort of volatility, whether it be a downside move or an upside move. Oftentimes you'll see them towards the end of consolidation phases. So I'm looking for them there. Another thing that's kind of interesting to do is to compare. Ooh, we could do this too. Is to compare your raindrop candles to your standard Japanese candles and look for kind of inconsistencies. So today you've got a red raindrop and a red Japanese candle. But what do we see over here? We see a big wick, right? And that wick might suggest something to us. For some people, it might suggest that buyers came in and pushed it up. For others, it might suggest, well, it wicked down there. It's probably going to go down there and test that wick again. What the raindrop allows us to see is what happened when price came into that wick. Did buyers come in? Was there a lot of volume in that wick? And you could see right here, the volume down in that wick is suggesting that, hey, yeah, there actually was volume down in that wick. Sometimes you'll see thin outlines of the volume profile, right? Or thin volume profiles. And so you'll know that there wasn't as much volume in that section of the candle, but with how thick this is, you know that a lot of volume came in that wick. So maybe that's more support for the idea of, wick down, it took out a bunch of stops, buyers saw that there was value and they pushed it back up, and maybe perhaps it'll continue higher. If there wasn't a ton of volume, that might give you a different idea. Is it possible to see a rainbow chart? I'm not familiar with rainbow charts. You might have to educate me a little bit on rainbow charts. Is that the one where it's like, it almost looks like a curved fib and there's like different sections that look like a rainbow? If that's the case, we unfortunately do not offer rainbow charts at this time. That does not mean that we can't offer them. We do have JavaScript scripting capabilities. So if that code is anywhere, we can certainly load it in and you could just create a custom indicator. But it's not something that is available on the platform right now. I can tell you right off the bat. Mats, no problem, man. Absolute pleasure. Rainbow chart is good. Yeah, like Ryan said, that's another piece I was going to say. When you have a variance in color between your two candles, let's see if we can find any instances that are like that. Hold on one sec. Yeah, so like this, July 23rd, you've got a red raindrop candle, but you've got a green. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. I was wrong. But what Ryan's saying is when you have here's one, the 19th, I believe. Yeah. So on the 19th, you've got a red kind of hammer looking candle here. So it closed lower than it opened. But what you saw actually on the raindrop was that volume increased into the second half of the day. And or rather, the average price paid increased over the second half of the day. Buyers came in and were buying this thing in the upper half of the range on the second half of the day. You do not see that here. So perhaps if you thought this candle was a topping candle and this was kind of like a retest and ready to push lower, what the raindrop told you here was that actually, no, buyers came in and they bought up the top of the range to close out the day, which kind of suggested what move actually happened, which was a continuation higher. And then you get this big push here the next couple of days. So that raindrop was kind of a clue that this candle, although it printed kind of bearish looking, was actually a bullish scenario. Difference between go, no go and chats. Great question. The truth of the matter is I don't know the fine-tuned specifics of go, no go or chats. They're both kind of secret indicators or the nuts and bolts that define what makes a go, no go chart and what makes a chats chart. Let me grab these real quick so we can, for everybody in the audience who wants to see them. I can tell you a little, I can tell you a couple of differences, but they're not going to be, they may not be the specifics that you're looking for. So with Go No Go and chats, I do not know the underlying components that define these two indicators. They're kind of secret. We know a little bit, but we don't know everything. So there's a little bit of there's things that you can learn about both of them. But when you compare them side by side, it actually, there are quite a few similarities. I think to me, kind of the key difference between Go No Go and chats is a numerical value. It's defined by a color, but it's actually a numerical value. If you've not seen this yet, let me show you the chats lower indicator. So this is the lower indicator, and it's essentially an oscillator. It's very similar to relative performance, right? Oscillates between a negative value and a positive value in this case, from negative 100 to positive 100. But because it has a numerical value attached to it, you can utilize it in the scanner. So if you wanted to, you could go into your scanner here and you could say, chats, let's say index is greater than a constant value of 90. Right. And that fast, you can find names that have a chat's value up in that 90 area. That's the difference is I'm going to retrace. I'm going to retract myself a little bit after I say this first thing. You can very easily scan for chats conditions. Now, we did very recently launch some fundamental upgrades to our custom scripting that allow you to define color as like almost like a numerical value. You can define color inside of the scanner. However, the boys at Go No Go need to create that for us so that you can actually do it. So for the time being, chats is of the two, chats is the only one you can scan for. So kind of what I would say is if you're looking for particular Go No Go criteria, you might want to use chats as a proxy. If you're looking for blue, you might want to define chats as, greater than 90. If you're looking for orange, you might want to define chats as maybe like 0. If you're looking for purple, you might want to define chats as negative 80 or lower. That's kind of how I would think about it. We do have a video with Tushar. Actually, we've got videos with both groups that we've made. The guys at Go No Go kind of explaining everything you need to know about Go No Go, Tushar explaining everything about chats. There's not a right or wrong thing to use. I think they're both equally powerful, but because right now, in order to scan for chats conditions, we need the chats boys, or rather to scan for Go No Go conditions, we need those guys at Go No Go to create a custom indicator for us. Maybe chats is a good middle ground or a good thing to use to kind of find Go No Go setups. Anything else, guys? We've been at this for an hour. It's been hopefully an instructive session for everybody. Any final questions from anyone? Thomas, cheers, man. Thanks so much. Ooh, there's a Go No Go indicator that can be scanned already. I didn't know that. Well, there you go. All right, guys. So You do have to, it looks like Dan's saying you do have to buy the Go No Go, the deluxe indicator, which if you'd like to do that, just search Go No Go. Oh, darn. Here, hold on. Let me see. Maybe you guys can link. I don't want to go jumping around, but can link to the TrendSpider store. I apologize. I should have had a link up ready to go. There it is. Thanks, Dan. Paul, awesome to hear. So much to learn for sure. Feel free to, once this video is sent to you, feel free, play it back, go back over everything. I know I went over everything kind of quickly. We only have a limited amount of time, but I tried to get you guys the brass tacks of kind of the basics, tried to go across the platform and show you some key functionality and also kind of how to utilize that functionality from one thing to the next. Learn how to develop your flow through the platform was a big goal here. So hopefully we kind of gave you a little bit of understanding about that. Last minute questions, going once, going twice. Are we good? Everybody good? I think we're good. All right, y'all. Well, then I'm going to get out of here. I want to give you a big thanks for coming today. Really appreciate it. And like I said, if you're here today, Zoom will be mailing this video to you. If for some reason that doesn't work, it should. But if it doesn't, check on our YouTube page later on this evening, and it'll be up and available there for y'all. All right, guys. Well, again, thank you so much. Hope you have a great rest of your trading day. Have an awesome weekend. And we'll see you all again on Monday. Oh, yes. And final reminder, if you're not yet a TrendSpider trader, take advantage of our back to school sale. You can save up to 50% off on your first year of the platform. The sale is good until this Sunday. All right, guys. Have a great one. We'll talk again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.